Hello, welcome back. Looks like we're gonna get the black pieces, and I've been itching to play an Alekhine again. So let's go with that. See what we get. Okay. 4 pawns. Okay. So I'm gonna take, that's the standard move versus the 4 pawns. And then here I have a couple of different variations I like to play. Um, and this C5 idea is one of my favorites. I may have posted on this variation before, but I don't remember. The normal idea is to push, because if he takes, I trade queens and his king's stuck in the center, and then I'm gonna move my knight to attack both these weak pawns. So his idea is to push, and then I'm going to push e6 and undermine, try to undermine. I'm pretty sure I have posted on this variation before. But if he's not careful, and he doesn't realize I've opened my queen up, he can get into some trouble quickly. So his idea here should be to defend the pawn or to develop the other knight to keep my queen out of there. Either one of those moves should be okay for him. And then I'll take. Then you'll have these two advanced central pawns, but they can be difficult to defend. The computer's going to say that, wow, he advanced. Okay. Well, now he's going to run into some trouble because he's let me check and get my queen out here, and I'm going to start picking up these central pawns. He can't block with the pawn because that wins me the rook. Although if I'm not careful in that variation, I can get my queen trapped. So that's exactly what he should not have done. He should have developed his knight to defend. And then I take, he takes, and I push c4. I've actually gotten this variation over the board in tournament play a couple times. Moves his king. Okay. So I'm tempted to check on d4 to force him to do a light square, maybe, before he gets his knight out. Let's check him. Could have checked with a knight, but then traded bishops. And I want to get these two central pawns out of the way because they are a wedge in my position. And if he has a chance to get them defended, it can be a little problematic. But with his king so exposed, he's not going to get that chance. Plus, he can develop his bishop now too to get a piece out. But then I could check the king with a bit of a tempo. Be forced back over here, and then I would come here. He'd trade dark square bishop. I'd take with the queen. I'm still not picking up these pawns that I want to get. Maybe I just pick up the pawn. He develops the bishop, I pick up the pawn. He develops the knight, I pick up the other pawn. Being up to 2 pawns in the opening, you can't really ask for much more than that. Of course, I do not want to trade queens, so I'm going to pick up the pawn. And then if he develops the knight, I'll pick up the other pawn, and then I'll trade queens, of course. If he doesn't develop the knight, I take the pawn with the bishop and look at getting castled. But the pawn isn't going anywhere either. I could develop the knight instead, but he does. Okay. So this was brought about by an error on my opponent's part in the opening. Uh, but that doesn't mean I quit playing because I can give this back pretty easily if I screw up. But the rest of the game should be pretty easy. Um, Up 2 pawns, I'm just going to trade down into an end game and uh, try to win by attrition. So he develops his bishop. Let's get our knight out and threaten to come here with a nice little fork. So he can't, I mean, he shouldn't just try to develop naturally. All these moves, this would give him an escape for the king, but it would hang the bishop because I'd have 2 attackers. Once the knight gets there, he's got to figure out how to defend that bishop. He can keep my knight out by pushing a pawn. He can redeploy the bishop. But then he's losing tempo too, so probably the pawn move to keep the knight out of that square. Or the bishop. Okay. The bishop works too. It can be traded off, but I don't mind trades. Um, I don't mind trades at all. But that takes a nice square away from his knight. And if he brings the knight out, I have the same threat because if he blocks the bishop. So let's just continue with our own development and look at getting castled. If I move the bishop off, maybe he could come here and threaten this. But then I get castled. All my pieces over here on the queen side. I don't want to give him momentum to be any kind of Greek gift. If I do here, he does here. I castle. Does he have a Greek gift? Sack, takes, check. Bishop would take. Queen here, check, pick back up the piece. But he sacked a bishop. And the knight and bishops are traded. So that's just a losing maneuver. Um, I'm just going to develop the bishop. Just makes sense. I have to be careful about moving the bishop off the queen because it's defending the queen. And now he doubles down on this, protect it. Now he can develop his knight because this pawn protects. So he's going to come here and attack my queen, maybe? Is that his big plan? What if I threaten the bishop? That does start to move a lot of pieces away from my king. There's no defenders around the king, but he also, I mean, he has two bishops pointed this way. Not that way, but here, the knight can jump in quickly, the queen can come in. So there might be an attack brewing on the king side, and I don't want to completely neglect my protection, my king's safety, but I also want to keep an attack going. He still doesn't have the Greek gift if I do this, because takes, check, back. He picks the knight back up. He sacks a piece for a pawn. Or he would probably take the bishop with the bishop to protect that, because it would be hanging. I suppose I need to be thinking about getting some coordination over here to attack. I'd like to start pushing pawns over here on the queen side to get open lines of attack. So what can I do here? Well, I suppose if I want to push pawns, then the first push could be here to keep the knight out. And then I'm going to look at re-maneuvering this knight to push my b pawn, get my bishop developed, and start attacking on the queen side, since that's where his king is. So he attacks me over here. And my choices are d7 and c7, d8, I don't like d7 because it takes a square from two different minor pieces. So that's out. It's between d8 and c7. And I mean, d8 keeps the pressure on the bishop. It supports the bishop in a battery. I think d8 is the move. Although c7 puts it on the same file as the king. But I don't think anything's coming from that quickly, so d8. Now I have this square for my knight as well. Don't know how much good that does, but it's an available square. I've also got this check to force the trade of a knight. If he doesn't take, I can take. Might be a little dangerous to allow an open G file, but I'm not too scared. Yeah, keeping it complicated just really benefits him. So I think the trading idea of knight d4 check is a pretty solid option. Just get some material off the board, prevent any tricks, or at least decrease the chances of tricks. And now do I take with the pawn or do I take with the queen? Taking with the queen runs into a tempo gaining move. So let's take towards the center. That's the principled move. And strengthen our center. Now we have a passer. And we've opened up a little bit of a possibility on the C file. And this pawn's hanging now, but I'm not going to bother with taking that. Um, I don't want to create open files for him. Quite dangerous. My focus is over here. Really over here. That is my focus of play here. So let's, I think, developing the bishop. There's no real ideas of there because he can block, but it does allow our piece to come to the C file. And the bishop needs to get developed. Let's develop the bishop. So we have ideas of coming here as well. Maybe more interested in rook c8. But I'd like to play knight somewhere to get these pawns, this b pawn rolling. There is this pin here I've neglected to look at. Could be. Is that problematic? This was moved here to keep a knight out of the b5 square. Maybe I should be looking at a5 to keep the bishop out of this square now. If he does it now, it's my best move. Be queen here to support this square and stop any idea of c5. How do I break the pin? Lift the queen further. I don't mind if he takes. Trading pieces is great for me. Brings the knight in. Okay. So he's got a threat on here. Definitely don't want to take and allow him to open up his rook. If I push, I've created a hook for him. After he retreats the knight, he advances the pawn. Do I just give him the pawn? Is that a problem? Hmm. I'd rather not. If I kick, he retreats. His next threat is to push. So what is my move in between? Maybe rook here. Pushes. Then I take here. He supports, I take anyway. So if he takes back with the pawn, I win the queen. I'm inclined to kick. I think I'm going to kick it. When he retreats, I play rook c8, threatening here. So I don't think he's got time to push. But if he pushes to protect the pawn, and I take with the knight, even if he takes with the bishop, I take with the rook and check. He can't take with the pawn because I check and win the queen. Maybe I could have just played that anyway. Just ignored this altogether. But then he attacks my rook. I take, go on rook c8. Not much thought there. I guess this pawn is hanging. He can snag up that central pawn, but Mm, that might create more opportunity for me to come here and attack with the dark square bishop. So if he just ignores my threat and takes, I take with the knight. I'm threatening a discovered attack on the king. So he takes, I take with check. I'm attacking the knight and the king. So he has to come forward to protect the knight. And then I just unleash the bishop, protect the rook, pin the knight to the king. That's deadly. I don't know if he can afford to take the central pawn. And even if he tries to protect his c pawn, I think my tactics are just too strong here. My position is overwhelming because of this little king chase. I don't see how he defends this. I think he just has to give up the pawn. Maybe just get his king out of the way. Okay, so rook's here. What if I check first and make him push the pawn, weaken this, and then I take with the knight. He can't take with this pawn. He can take the bishop, but then I have a double check. That doesn't do a lot because the king can come here now. So what's the plan? Put bishop here, check. He blocks. I go rook takes, pawn check. He can't take the bishop. He takes the rook. I play. I don't really have a follow-up there, I don't think, do I? I'm already up 2 pawns, so I think the idea might just be to take what I can get and um, okay. Yeah, let's just trade some pieces. So he's got a battery on this, but I can attack here with the idea of bringing the rook over to attack the queen. So I've got the bishop pair, and I'm up 3 pawns, 4 pawns on 7. Yeah. He could take here. I don't want to take back and allow some sort of perpetual. I don't even think he has a perpetual though. Because the pawn guards here, the bishop guards here. If the queen ends up here with these two pawns gone, can he push? Push and just threaten to try and checkmate me? I don't think so. He's down to under a minute, so I just got to be careful not to blunder. Blunder a checkmate. At this point, I think I could blunder material and still be okay. I don't want to. If I take, I might get to take here. Should I just? I'll just attack the queen first, while the bishop is guarding this square. That keeps this defended. If I take the bishop and he takes the queen, I mean, I think that's his only real hope, but I'm worried I'm going to run into some pawn pushing here. He takes with the queen, and I take here with the bishop. He checks, and I run. He checks again, and I run further. He checks on the back. I've got the bishop withdrawal to block. I think I just take it. I think I might be overthinking this. Okay. So I've got mate and one threatened. So ideas of like bringing the knight in are not good. He's got to defend this. Maybe he just brings the rook down to defend it. Nope, he checks. Okay. I think that rook move might have been an idea. Now I bring the bishop back. And I think he's got this move and another move to line up here. So maybe I do what? Let's come here and defend this bishop. Just because. You can also have checking threats. Yeah, let's do that. Puts pressure on the knight, defends the bishop, makes a nice battery. Looks like a good move. I don't see any forking tricks. He can trade off pieces all he wants. I'm fine with that. Maybe he wants to push pawns. This is a threat now. Taking here and then taking there with the queen would be a mate threat. I don't think I even want to bother with a check. Do I? Check. He goes to the corner. I check him again. He comes back. I think I need to defend this square. I don't want to allow funny business here. I just come back and guard this. Get my king close to these two pawns. He doesn't want to trade. I don't blame him. Oh, it gives the knight this square. Get this bishop out of here. Threaten to come in here. Or just here. How can I ignore the threat on the queen? He moves the pawn up to avoid that. I've got the queen coming here. I think that's game. I guess the rook was blocking the pawn. If I give up the bishop, do I have enough to run with? Check, check. King here. Check. It's a lot for him to calculate. I think I'd give up the bishop and I take my chances on miscalculation. Now he's got to come here. He comes here. I win. No, he come there and then come here to protect. I think either way, I take the pawn with check and then get the knight, maybe with check as well. Well, at any rate, I think the mate threats are done on his end. So check, check. Good game. Okay. So I know he made mistakes in the opening. I'm curious to see how accurately I played the middle game. Um, it looks like I gave him a shot to get back in it, a little teensy shot in the middle. That's what I love about that. But that line is it's very messy. It's very, very messy, and it's easy to go wrong for either side. Like I know he messed up in the opening, but it's not a done deal, foregone conclusion. I'm up 3 points on the eval. That was a miss. This is where I kind of gave him a slight chance to get back in it by trading pieces, and that was clean. Okay. So my assumption that I could trade pieces down into an endgame here kind of led me astray. So what is my better idea? Um, it's got to be to get this knight out of the way and start pushing pawns, I think is the only thing I can think of. It's a mistake, but it still leaves me 2.1 on the eval. So it's a better option than I did. I should kick the knight is what it wants me to do. And the knight comes here. But why? F5. Not sure I fully grasped that move. Why F5? I'm gonna have to study this line a little deeper. A miss here as well. I was pretty desperate to get that knight out of the way. Inaccurate. Isn't that the move I just played? Or maybe that was the last move. That was the previous move. So now it wants me to get the knight out of the way this way. And that was a blunder, which I did not punish accurately. I should have taken. Okay. I thought about so many different tactics here. I think this crossed my mind, but I didn't think about it long enough to consider it well. This is the bishop takes, obviously the rook's going to pin, and then the pawn's coming. I think I knew that, but I don't know, I got sidetracked and didn't play the accurate move there. I tried to set it up by bringing the rook over first. Didn't need to. Here's what the best move here was. Could I have gotten away with stuff? See it. Uh, oh no, I don't want white's move. I want white. What's the best idea? Bring the bishop. Okay, so if queen takes here, there isn't a checkmate here because the bishop still guards the square. Um, so queen takes, king d8. The queen's protecting the bishop. The queen comes back to check again. Can I block? I can block. Queen comes back. King runs. Ooh, that might be bad because then the rook can come here. So the king doesn't run. Maybe the queen comes back to block. Well, anyway. That wasn't the most accurate either. Check with the queen. Well, it all worked out. Okay. Hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching. Come back and view some more chess. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. And I'll see you soon.